Hello, hello. Happy, what are we? Thursday. Happy Thursday, everybody. If you're on here, get those likes up. Tag anybody, share this with someone that you think may find it interesting. Also, if you would like to show support to this show, you can find me on Cash App or Venmo. Super chats are open. I will be sure to acknowledge all super chats. So, anyways, guys, I came across this really interesting tweet that became pretty viral earlier today. And it's this right here. A woman admits to divorcing her loving husband for no other reason than wanting more money. It's pretty straightforward, but I do want to play the clip for you guys briefly before I go into it. I wanted to cover this topic off because I think what she says really gives some insight into some of the different beliefs and just some of the different challenges I think modern women have today in general when it comes to wanting to find love, wanting to find marriage. And so, I commend her for being open and honest about her mistakes and being open and honest about what she did wrong. And so, like I said, before I get too further down, I'm going to bring up the video and then have you guys hear it for yourself. So those of you guys who are hopping in here, hit the like button, and we'll get into it. Okay. All right. So like I said, this got nasty. It has, over 300,000 views. There is a ton of retweets. I mean, you get the picture. Let's see if I can play it. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just go back to the beginning.
It's been divorced before. My first marriage, we made all of the mistakes. Unfortunately, he passed away.
So why did you guys get a divorce?
Because I really wanted something different. It's very unfortunate because he was the most loving, kind person. I had all the love and support that I could have ever wanted. But I think I went through a period wanting money. Like I wanted to be with someone and be at a different level. And I saw him work all of the time. It's one thing to like work from like 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, day in, day out, and still have no resources. And for me to work, do the same, and just want a different life.
So, long story short, you wanted a different life and lifestyle than he was able to provide. And so you said, you know what, I'm out of here. I need more money.
I was selfish and took advantage of a real unfortunate situation, which was he loved me and David unconditionally, completely unconditionally. And when you love someone like that, you really accept their flaws and you accept less than what you should. So really, I should have been a better wife. Every time we saw each other, like you knew that was your soulmate, right?
Wow, so he was your soulmate?
It's hard because I knew how he still felt about me.
He just loved you.
He really did.
And you broke his heart. Oh, don't cry, too.
Okay, so I'm going to play this again one more time for those of you guys who are just now tuning in. Hit the like button on your way in here. Show some support via the Cash App or the Super Chat. And I'm going to play it again so you guys can get a sense. But you guys, you heard it straight from the horse's mouth. But like I said, I want to play it one more time for those who are coming on here. It's a short replay. It's only about 2 minutes. So, okay.
Been divorced before. My first marriage, we made all of the mistakes. Unfortunately, he passed away.
So why did you guys get a divorce?
Because I really wanted something different. It's very unfortunate because he was the most loving, kind person. I had all the love and support that I could have ever wanted. But I think I went through a period wanting money. Like I wanted to be with someone and be at a different level. And I saw him work all of the time. It's one thing to like work and work and work from like 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, day in, day out, and still have no resources. And for me to work, do the same, and just want a different life.
So, long story short, you wanted a different life and lifestyle than he was able to provide. And so you said, you know what, this, I'm out of here. I need more money.
I was selfish and took advantage of a real unfortunate situation, which was he loved me and David unconditionally, completely unconditionally. And when you love someone like that, you really accept their flaws and you accept less than what you should. So really, I should have been a better wife. Every time we saw each other, like you knew that was your soulmate, right?
Wow, so he was your soulmate?
It's hard because I knew how he still felt about me.
He just loved you.
He really did.
And you broke his heart. Oh, don't cry too.
Okay. Okay, a lot to unpack there. You know what I think I'm gonna do? I think this time I'm gonna play it, but I'm now going to play it and then kind of give my interject and give my perspective, because there's so many different points and there's so many different little things that she says that I want to cover off. So that's what I think I'm gonna do. I'm gonna play it, and then, like I said, as I hear a point that I want to address, I'm gonna do that. Guys, for those of you who are coming on, hit the like button. Likes are free, guys. Show some support. So some love on Cash App, Venmo, or through the Super Chat. I will be sure to acknowledge and read all Super Chats. For those of you guys who are coming on in here, we reviewed a video, I guess that evidently has been making the rounds. I saw somebody say in there, it is a video of a woman who admitted to divorcing her loving husband, who evidently accepted her, and I think her son. I saw somebody in there say that she has a son, and then she did mention David in there. And I don't know if she has a son named David, but either way, loved her unconditionally, worked really hard, and it just was not enough. She wanted a different, better lifestyle and decided to divorce him for no other reason than the fact that she just wasn't happy with what was going in financially at the time. So that is the clip that we're reviewing. A lot to unpack here. So like I said, this time I'm going to play it, and then as I get to a point that I want to address, I will interject. And she gives her a hug. Yeah, that I'm definitely going to touch upon that for sure, because like I said, there's a lot to unpack her. So, okay, let me play this again.
Been divorced before. You know, my first marriage, we made all of the mistakes. Unfortunately, he passed away.
So why did you guys get a divorce?
Because I really wanted something different. It's very unfortunate because he was the most loving, kind person. I had.
So, okay. Why did you guys get a divorce? And then she answers, because I wanted something different. So she made it very, 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 very clear. There wasn't necessarily anything, she couldn't point to anything that he was doing wrong. She literally, in this entire segment, now granted it's only like 2 minutes, so maybe in other aspects of the interview, but in this entire segment, she could not point to one thing that he did wrong, really. She just said that she wanted something different. Now, why is this important? I think before a person goes into a marriage in general, it is really, really important to understand core values. I think that is so important. And this is why I've said before, I don't believe every woman is a wife. I do not believe every woman is a wife. I think there's a lot of women today who maybe they want the status of being a wife, or the status of having the big day and the ring and the photos and the videographer and all that kind of different stuff. But when it comes to actually being a wife, being a helpmeet, working with, collaborating with a man, being his helpmeet, they don't necessarily want that position. And so she said she's just like, I just wanted something more. And my first question is, like, I wonder why those conversations were not had beforehand. You guys dated and everything. So you probably, unless you had like a shotgun wedding where you met him the next week you got married, assuming you knew him for some time, you had a pretty good understanding as to the money that he was making, his trajectory, his goals, ambitions. You knew that before you got married. So why is this now all of a sudden a question? So, that's the first thing that I noticed. What I do appreciate about this woman is that she's being very honest about her mistakes, and probably she's looking back now at as she's matured and looking back and saying, man, like, I had it good here. I had it better than I thought, but I just didn't know because perhaps I had unrealistic expectations. That's what I'm thinking, because she definitely, you can tell she has a lot of regret and remorse in this entire video. And she even said, I was wrong. I was selfish. So like I said, I can commend her for being honest about her immaturity in that point. But that's what I'm saying. I wanted something different. It's like, again, these are the conversations you have beforehand, before you say I do and death, till death do us part or whatever. And a part of that is understanding, okay, what are the core values, So it's interesting how she's positioning as if she was taken by surprise that they were living at a certain financial situation. And I'm like, well, what was happening when they were dating? Like, shouldn't this have been clear? So anyways, let me continue.
Had all the love and support that I could have ever wanted. But I think I went through a period wanting money. Like, I wanted to be with someone and be at a different level. And
so, man, I love her for saying that, because again, she's hitting on those points. She had all of the love and the support that she needed. How many times have women complained about men being emotionally unintelligent, not finding men who are emotionally involved, emotionally in tuned, able to meet their emotional needs, being shut off, being shut down? How many times have we either complained about that ourselves or listened to women who've claimed about that? I hear that all the time in female spaces. Like, these men just don't know. They're just emotionally inept. Literally hear that all the time. So it's funny that she's like, okay, she literally has one of the things that most women complain about not having. She has that, and yet it still was not enough. It still wasn't enough. Having the guy who could connect with her emotionally, knew how to love her unconditionally. She was unconditionally loved. She knows this. She, without a shadow of a doubt, she knows that she was unconditionally loved, and yet it still was not enough. Why?
And I saw him work all of the time. It's one thing to like work from like 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, day in, day out, and still have no resources. And for me to do the same, and just want a different life.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Looks like I was on mute. So, it basically sounds like, again, they were just on the struggle bus, y'all, that they just were not making a lot of money, which, again, if she got married when she was young, very typical, very common. Most people don't get married young and have a trust fund handed to them or have homes handed to them, which is essentially the primary way you get wealth in America, right? If you like homes or inheritance, like most people don't have that. Most young people, they get married, they have to struggle a bit. They have to, save up, maybe live in a small place, maybe have some years where they're doing things lean. So it's interesting because what we can assume based upon this just short dialogue is she had a man who, one, was emotionally available, loved her unconditionally, something that most women say that they would dream of. They say, oh, love is all that I need. You know what I mean? As long as he loves me, as long as he's there for me emotionally, the money doesn't matter. So we hear all that kind of stuff. She had that. It still wasn't enough. Then she goes on to say that he was working all the way from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. So, assuming that this man loved her the way that he did, and assuming that he was fully aware that she was not content with their financial situation, it sounds like he was grinding. He was totally and completely grinding. Now, here's the thing that we know about wealth: it does not build overnight, it takes time, y'all. It takes time. It just simply takes time. And Kevin Samuels even talks about this, right? Where it's like high value men, they don't really start hitting their financial peak until what, like the 40s or something, 40s, 50s. That's really when they start hitting or financial stride, if you will. But that's decades upon decades of them having to essentially grind and take all these different jobs and do this different stuff before they really start to get to a place of wealth. So wealth does not build overnight. So it's so interesting that the thing that broke them apart was a financial hardship. Really, that's basically what she said. He was working a lot, sounded like she was working a lot, and it just still wasn't giving her the lifestyle she wanted. Presumably, she wanted something easier. And I think this brings it to another point. There is a common misconception. I think there's a common misconception that a lot of modern women have, that we are told, which is the fact that this stuff is supposed to just come easy. Money is just supposed to come easy. You're just going to meet a guy, meet a Prince Charming that's going to have the wealth, that's going to have the resources and have the assets, and you're not going to have to work that hard. And we already know, we've discussed this, those kind of men are in short supply. And most often those kind of men who have those resources are generally older. So again, unless you are considering marrying somebody that's a little bit older when you're young, or you land an athlete, which if you do that, then you have a whole other set of issues you're going to have to deal with. Like you're going to just have to do what people have done for essentially centuries, which is kind of start from the bottom and build their way up. That's, again, unless you're coming from a really wealthy family, that's pretty much what you're going to have to do. But it sounds like she bought into the narrative that this is supposed to be easy. I should not have to get or work with a man and work with him, and us together work together and build and save and do whatever. I shouldn't have to do that. It should already be done. It shouldn't be this hard. And I think that's a misconception. Boomers right now hold the majority of the wealth, really, in all ethnic groups. Even if I think back to my parents when they were young, I mean, they worked incredibly hard. Now, when they retire, my parents retire, they're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. But I remember as a kid, my dad working a couple of jobs, my mom working, raising 3 daughters and at school at one point in time. Like they were grinding. They were working really, 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 really hard. So now they're near retirement age. When they retire, they're going to be okay. But, I can even think of what they were doing growing up. And it wasn't like they just woke up and it was all there. It's like there was a lot of different years of them actually having to work hard and save and try to make different decisions to put them in better financial situations. That's what most people have done. And that's typically what has to be done. So this whole idea that it's supposed to be easy, and that if he's grinding and I'm grinding and we're doing these different things, it's not working, I'm going to exit the marriage, I'm going to exit the relationship. I just don't think that's realistic. It's like, why couldn't it have been, okay, maybe we rethink, maybe one of us go back to school, or maybe one of us, I don't know, maybe we move somewhere that may be more expensive. Like, why did the option in this case have to be divorce and find somebody better? If she already had somebody that she loved, already had somebody he was obviously a hard worker, just he hadn't hit his financial stride yet, but he was obviously willing to get there. Why wasn't there a willingness to ride it out with him versus just try to take the easy way out? And I'm like, does it come down to entitlement? Does it come down to the sense of, oh, well, I think I deserve to do better because of what I've seen online or in Disney movies or in televisions or in romance novels or sitcoms? Because if we're doing it based upon that, that's not the reality. That is just not the reality. So anyways, again, I thought there was a lot to unpack here. And again, I think a lot of young girls, women, they have this false pretense. They have a fantasy in their head about what marriage is supposed to look like. And as soon as the fantasy falls, or as soon as real life does not compare with their fantasy, they think they were gypped. They think they had a raw deal, and they bounce. And unfortunately for many of them, it takes them going through years of regret and years of failed relationships and other hardships for them to actually realize, no, I actually had it really good. I just had unrealistic expectations. And this is why I think it's really important that women, especially young girls, have a realistic understanding of what marriage really is about. Like, it's not, again, this fairy tale. It's not what you see on TV. I'll just say that it's not what you see on TV. And I would be curious to know her background, if she grew up in a two-parent household, or if she grew up with a single mother or a single dad, like, because I think that would maybe inform the different ideas that she had, why she expected that what she was going through was so abnormal or was so rough that it was worth her exiting. He didn't cheat. He loved her. He was a hard worker. It's like, you had to divorce him. There weren't other options before you came to divorce. And again, the reason I think she did that is because she thought she could do better. She just ultimately thought that she could do better. And what gave her that perception when he was already such a good guy? Anyways, let me continue.
So, long story short, you wanted a different life and lifestyle than he was able to provide. And so you said, you know what, this, I'm out of here. I need more money.
I was selfish and took advantage of a real unfortunate situation, which was he loved me and David unconditionally.
So, and that's where I don't know if she was a single mother, because if she was a single mother or had a kid and he took her in, then that's even more of like, well, sis, what, like, what expectations did you have? What expectations did you have? Because I'm like, if she actually did have a child and married her and loved her child and was willing to work, I mean, hours. He said it will be from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. He was working. He was obviously grinding, trying to get them a better life. He was willing to really sacrifice so much. And she was just like, I took advantage of the situation. God almighty, that's horrible. Now, again, what I appreciate about her is that she's being really honest. She's having an honest conversation, and somebody could go and look at her and judge her or whatever. But at the end of the day, what she is actually sharing is not abnormal. There's many women, I think many young women, who actually believe this, and they believe in their younger years that, oh, I can do better. Or I deserve this. I deserve that. I deserve A, B, C, X, Y, and Z. I should not have to struggle. And again, that's the kind of stuff that causes people to be dissatisfied in relationships. Because if you compare your relationships to something that is fantasy, you're never going to be satisfied, and you're not even going to know how to recognize a good thing when it comes. So again, she admitted that she was selfish. At the end of the day, she was selfish. And you got to wonder, when she went into the situation, did she just see him as a safeguard? If she was a single mother, if she did have a kid, did she just see him as somebody who's going to help alleviate their financial burdens? Because again, this goes back to what I've said before. Women who do have children out of wedlock, which I don't recommend, if you do, your opportunities or your likelihood of gaining wealth goes down so much more. It goes down so much more because single women with children they're essentially like at the bottom, or they are at the bottom when it comes to wealth, income. Again, this isn't everybody, but the majority of them do struggle financially. So if that was her situation, she was a struggling single mother, and then this guy came along, was willing to give her a chance. You got to wonder, well, was she seeing him as like a ticket out? Was she seeing him as somebody who could help alleviate her financial burdens, and he wasn't doing good enough or fast enough? She still felt like she still had a burden. I mean, I don't know. This is all speculation. I'm not sure. But if that makes it even worse. But again, even if it was just her and him, again, there's obviously some unrealistic expectations. And I would just have to wonder, where did she get these expectations from of how marriage should look? Even when you look at people, you talk to older people who are wealthy today, or at the very least well off, usually, they had to work hard. They had to struggle. And again, I do understand that there are families that pass wealth down. They'll pass on houses. They'll pass on trust funds. They'll give loans, different things. That does happen. And that is, again, the way the majority of the wealth works in this nation. But apart from that, it's like you got to wonder where she got ideas of relationship from. Shout out to Eugene Steele with the 20 on the super chat. I do appreciate you, Eugene Steele. I see females like this never cared for men from the beginning. They wanted the lifestyle. They say they wanted the lifestyle they work their butts off for. They do whatever they can to get that lifestyle with minimal work. I will comment this one for being honest. Absolutely, much appreciated. I agree. That's what I was saying before. Like, one can only guess, but you have to wonder if she was a single mother. She was probably struggling. Let's just be honest. She was probably definitely struggling, and maybe she was looking for somebody who helped pay her bills. And if that wasn't coming fast enough, is that why she bounced? I don't know. I don't know. So it's it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Okay, let me continue. I want to continue with this here.
Completely unconditionally. And when you love someone like that, you really accept their flaws and you accept less than what you should. So really, I should have been a better wife.
So she's basically admitting that she took advantage of him. That's essentially what she's saying. She took advantage of his love for her. And like I said, I commend her. I commend her for being honest about it. I commend her for fessing up and owning up, because I think if nothing else, this can be a case study, or this could be a lesson for, younger generations, or for younger women who are in, their prime, they're in the season of their life where they're trying to date or marry. You can learn from situations like this. You can learn. But either way, she's just like, she took advantage of him. She just did, just flat out. She's kind of, she's saying it in kind of a nice way, but ultimately that's what it is. And now she regrets it. Let me see. Okay, let me see, guys. For those of you who are hopping in, get those likes up, y'all. Hit the like button, smash the like button. Show support to the show on Cash App or Venmo. Also, super chats are open. I'll be sure to read and acknowledge all super chats. So, again, we were just going through this video that went viral of this woman admitting that she divorced her loving, loyal, faithful, hardworking husband because he just wasn't bringing in enough money. Period. And like I said, I appreciate her honesty, and we're going through it because I think there are a few lessons from it that we can actually glean from. So I'll continue.
Every time we saw each other, like, you knew that was your soulmate, right?
Wow, so he was your soulmate?
It's
okay. Yeah. Y'all. Okay. I'm like, y'all. Okay. I'm like, so it is interesting. Notice the sympathetic music in the background, the violins and the piano. Like, notice how the whole framing of this, right? Because y'all already know, have this be a man, be like, yeah, I was with this woman, but I divorced her because she was too fat. She was so sweet. She would cook. She would clean. She was so loyal. She was there for me emotionally. She understood me. She was cooperative, but she was just overweight and I didn't like her. Do you think there'd be sympathetic music in the background, violin playing, pianos, a co-host, that's like, oh, I understand you. That's being sympathetic. That's being reasonable. Do you think any of that would happen if there was a man? Do you think any of that would happen if this was a man? If it was a man literally being like, yeah, I divorced her because she just was overweight. I wasn't attracted to her anymore. So, so notice the framing of this. It is interesting how somehow she gets the sympathy in this whole scenario. I find that very intriguing because, like I said, we already know if the roles were reversed, it wouldn't happen. But nevertheless, let the violins play. Okay, let the music play. Y'all spike those likes up, y'all. But again, that's what she's saying. She's like, she just wanted some more assets, y'all. She simply wanted more money. And nothing that this man did was enough for her. Nothing that he did was enough. Nothing that he did was enough. And see, again, this goes, I think, to a deeper problem, goes to a deeper issue. So many women today, I feel like, have bought into this false Instagram reality. They have bought into that lie. They have bought uh, into that image that's been sold us. And they are not willing to come off of their high horses, or not willing to come down from that fantasy and live in the real world. And I think as a result, what does that actually lead to when it comes to day-to-day expectations? It comes to entitlement. I think it really does. And again, this is different. There's a difference between you wanting better and willing to work towards it, willing to humbly do different things, take risks. There's a difference between, I think, doing that and working towards it versus taking advantage of people, which essentially she said that she did, taking advantage of people in hopes that you'll get there, or thinking that you deserve something that you don't. There's a big difference. And, I think, again, this is something that a lot of women struggle with today, because largely is we go online and all we see is the luxury, cute vacation, high-end stuff. But most people aren't living like that, especially Black women. Most of us, that is not our scenario. It's really not. And so there's nothing wrong with desiring those things. But if the desire for that makes you, first, it creates discontentment. It makes it to where you're not even able to be content in your current situation. Two, it causes you to want to take advantage of other people and see other people as walking pocketbooks. Then that's bad. That's dangerous. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. If you are loving money, and if you're loving that mirage, that facade, more than the person you're married to, even the person that you supposedly gave your life to, that is a recipe for disaster. It just is. And again, that's why I said I appreciate and I applaud her for being honest about this, because she bought into the lie and it blew up in her face. And I'm like, if nothing else, maybe we can look at this, women can look at this and learn from her mistakes and say, okay, maybe let me not fall into that. Again, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with wanting better. You can absolutely want better. But again, most people who even get to that point of wealth, they have to work and struggle to get there. They have to sacrifice, they have to plan, they have to strategize, they have to save, they have to work. It does not happen overnight. Most people are not born into a trust fund. Most people are not born into a family that can hand them down properties and wealth and give them hundreds of thousands of dollars in their wedding day or whatever it may be. Most people, that is not their story. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're a horrible person or that you don't have value, but it just means your path towards success or wealth may look a little bit differently. And it may mean you have to work harder and have to sacrifice more, period. Just period. And so how many women are passing by good, great, eligible, hardworking men with beautiful hearts, with good work ethics, with the desire to commit and settle down? They're passing it over, looking for a mirage that will never come. How many of them are doing it? How many? And so again, this is why I love what she is. I love how she's being honest about her mistakes, because I said, if nothing else, hopefully somebody can look at this and say, you know what? I don't want to be like that. I want to do better. I want to do better. So shout out to, I see Dark Power with the 5 on the Cash App. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. I do appreciate you guys. Again, if you'd like to show support to the show, you can hit me on Cash App or Venmo Shay Sade. Also, super chats are open, so be sure to support me. And too many. That's what I'm saying. So many of us have bought into the lie. I see Proverbs talks about these type of women. Absolutely, absolutely. Women who they get caught up with the love of money, or they get caught up with the mirage, not even understanding how they get there. The thing that I think is the most toxic about Instagram culture in particular is that it promotes a lifestyle that people don't generally achieve until they're retired. Again, you see the nice hotels and the nice restaurants and the nice homes and the cruises or whatever it may be. And most people, again, don't achieve that level of success consistently until they're like retired, until they've been working for decades. It's not to say you can't vacation in the meantime, but I think that the false narrative that portrays that, oh, this is my lifestyle. I'm hopping from resort to resort. I'm going from big home to big home. I'm going from big car to big car. And I'm in my 20s and I'm in my 30s. Again, most people who even get to that point, that's not happening until they're retired. And so again, you have a lot of young, impressionable girls and women looking at that, thinking that's supposed to be them when they're 20, when it's like, no, honey, people who really live like that probably had to work a good 30, 40, maybe even 50 years to where they could even afford that consistently and not be in a lot of credit and not getting a ton of credit and not getting in a ton of, back pay or whatever in order to afford it. And so that's one of the biggest downfalls for social media, especially when it comes to women and the different things that are marketed to women, and the different things that we fund. A luxury lifestyle that most people can't afford, and when they can't afford it, it's when they're retired. You should not expect to live like a 60-year-old when you're 20. You should not expect to have the same level of wealth, to have the same level of prestige, to have the same level of comfort. No. Like I said, you're looking at 30, 40, sometimes even 50 years of work, retirement, pension, especially if they were married. Like, you're looking at people who grinded. So that's the whole thing about the false narrative. Again, that it portrays, that it paints. It doesn't show the long hours. It doesn't show that. It doesn't show the sleepless nights, the times when people had to study. They had to study at night and then go to work during the day and do it all over again and then have to change diapers in between. It doesn't show that. It doesn't have to show people who they have a 9 to 5 and then after that they go lift and then maybe they go do a YouTube and then maybe they go do whatever it may be. They may go do a DoorDash, like all the little different end jobs just to try to bring in different income. It doesn't show that. But again, I'm saying that's what older generations, they understood. They understood that, yeah, maybe you can get nice things. It's okay to want nice things, but it's not okay to think that it's going to come overnight. And it's not okay to think that you need to have it today, especially when you can't afford it. So again, I think that unknowingly she fell into that cycle. And again, I would wonder, what was it that caused her to do it? Again, I'd be curious about her upbringing. If she grew up in a 2-parent household, if she grew up in a single parent household, the class. I mean, I think all of that would inform how she had these ideas about marriage, but nevertheless, we know they were not right and they were not healthy. So, shout out to Better You with the 10. much appreciated. Okay, I see. This is a lot of men's deepest fears. Some would rather play the field than commit and be fleeced. Mr. Z said it the other day. This is a result of commodification of men. Man, bars. I love how you said that. I love how you said the commodification of men. Looking at men as like walking ATMs, instead of human beings that have feelings and emotions and have desires and wants and fears and aspirations, not understanding that they also have things that they want to do. They're not robots. They need to rest as well, just like women. Like, we're human beings. Yes, you can grind and work hard and try to work towards a goal, but you have limitations. And when you look at a man, or as a person in general, as simply a commodification or something that is there to just fit your own need, one, not only is that narcissistic, but it creates a dynamic where for you to be disappointed. It just simply creates a setup for you to be disappointed, because at that point, no one can live up to those expectations. And that is what we see so far in this short 2-minute clip. What we have discovered is that there was nothing that this man could have done to meet her unrealistic expectations. He was loving. He loved her unconditionally. He was caring. He was there for her emotionally. He was there for her in all the ways that women say that they want. And all the ways that women complain that men can't do, they complain that men can't be. He was that for her. He was that for her. And it still wasn't enough. He was working 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. He was working his behind off. Yeah, maybe he didn't have wealth at the time, but he was definitely working towards getting it. Nobody works from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. because they're being lazy. Nobody works that much because they don't have a plan. So he was working himself almost to the bone, probably. And then if she did have a single child and he was willing to take her and the child in and was still doing all that kind of different stuff, he loved her. And again, it just wasn't enough. Why? Because her expectations were unrealistic. She did not have a strong understanding, a realistic understanding of what it was going to mean. And if she did have a child out of wedlock, she probably did not know how that was going to financially impact her. She did not think that through, most likely. She didn't know that making that decision was probably going to undermine any possibilities of her gaining success, or at the very least, it was going to make it harder for her to do so. Those are not the conversations that she had. Those are not the things that she was told. And this is the thing that set women, modern women, up for disappointment. It is. So you make a great point. Okay, so let me continue. I think we're getting close to the end there.
Hard because I knew how he still felt about me.
He just loved you.
He really did.
And you broke his heart. Oh, don't cry, too.
Okay, so y'all, that was it. That was it. He loved her unconditionally, and it still wasn't enough, period. He was doing everything that she could, and it just wasn't enough. And like I said, it's so interesting at the end how literally, y'all, we see how there's that sympathetic music playing. You got the cello and the piano in the background, setting the mood. Tears are flowing, hugs are being given, and she's getting all of the sympathy. She is getting all of the sympathy, but she was the one that was in the wrong. That's the crazy thing about it. And listen, you know, I'm not saying you got to throw her under the bus. I'm like, I commend her for being honest. But what we all know, again, if the roles were reversed and it was a man sitting up there online talking about, I divorced my wife, she was loving, amazing, faithful, cooperative, cooked every day, cleaned all the time, made me feel like a man, but she was just overweight and I divorced her, she would have been canceled. There ain't no violence, there's no cellos, there's no sympathy, there's no, oh, don't cry, hugs, none of that. He is canceled. So again, the framing of this is so interesting, and I think I'm just starting to see more and more how even in the media, when we're looking at magazines and videos and the ways that men or women are portrayed, how there's not always an equal, fair exchange or fair representation. This would never fly for a man, period. Or even, okay, or even if it was a man, even if, forget about the weight, if it was a man that said, hey, my wife was loyal and fair and loving and faithful and emotionally available, but she just didn't make enough money. I didn't like her job, so I divorced her. Again, same scenario. There's no situation that I can think of where a man could admit to being wrong and divorcing a woman, and he's going to get violins and piano in the background, sympathy and hugs. There's not any situation I can think of that being okay. Y'all let me know if I'm wrong. He said, Shay, you can find the full clip on the own YouTube channel. Oh, okay. Yeah, I just saw this off of YouTube, so I may have to go check it out. Because I guess there's more to this story than what I know. All I saw was that 2 minutes, so I'm doing my best to come to conclusions based upon that little 2 minutes. But yeah, I think there was so much there already in that little small clip. There was so much there. So this is what I took away from it, and this is what I think primarily women should really consider. One, going back to values. What is it that you are valuing? You know, she said early on she wanted essentially money, period. There ain't no way to put it. There's no other way to spin it. She wanted some money. And I just wish women nowadays would just stop the cap and just say it. Would just go and say, you know what, I just want money, period. Because a lot of women do feel that way, but most women to this day still don't feel comfortable being like, I just want a man that has resources. I just want a man that has money. There are some who are doing it, but they risk being called a gold digger. They risk being called, shallow. And so they'll kind of dance around it and be like, no, it's not about the money. It's just about his work ethic, or it's just about, if he has vision. So they'll kind of dance around it. But at the end of the day, many of them just want some resources, period. And I'm like, you know what? I would actually respect if you're just like, you know what? I want a man with resources. and again, why is it important to identify your values and what you actually are wanting or what you're thinking? Because you need to know that even before you get into the situation, before you even think about marriage. For all you know, you could be wanting things that are totally completely unrealistic or totally and completely toxic. But if you don't first identify those things, identify those core values, and you just kind of randomly marry somebody just because maybe it feels good or you want the status symbol, it's just going to blow up in your face, period. Because you haven't had those tough conversations. You haven't even vetted yourself to make sure you're even marriage material, period. I mean, based upon what she said, she wasn't even marriage material. She wrecked her own marriage. And she, in her own words, it's essentially what she said. She wrecked her own marriage, and it's because she just wasn't prepared. She didn't really know what she truly valued, or she wasn't owning up to it. And again, it sounded like at that time she was just hoping for somebody that was going to make her life easier, and he just didn't do it. He just didn't. He did not measure up to her unrealistic expectations, and it blew up in her face. And that's what I'm saying. I think modern women today, in particular, many of those being born without in single parent homes, maybe without a strong connection with their mom or their dad, and they're just kind of making it up. Some of us have to really go back to the basics and learn, well, what does it even mean? What does it even mean to get married? What does it actually entail? What does a healthy marriage setup actually look like? What will this require? Is this even what I want? Do I even qualify for this? Not all women are wives, period. Not all women are wives. And I hate to break it to you. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but they're not. And I think those who recognize that and own that and embrace that, they're a lot happier coming to that conclusion and not putting themselves in situations where they're either unqualified or they're miserable and the other person's miserable. But not all women are wives just by virtue of just being born. No, you become one. You're made into one. And if you do want to be a wife and you don't have those qualities, that's fine, but you have to work to get there. But again, so going back to values, she had a bad value system, and I don't think she even thought to identify it. Right. And then there she was seeing a man as essentially a wallet, as a commodity, as something that she could use to get what she wanted. And when she didn't get what she wanted, she exited stage left. And all this is another thing that we see from this whole interview. He was her soulmate. She said he was her soulmate. He loved her unconditionally. He worked hard, accepted her and her child if she had one. I mean, there was not one negative thing that she could say about him other than the fact that he did not have maybe higher standards for himself. That's what she alluded to. But there was not one negative thing that she could say about him. And it still wasn't enough. And this is what this brings me to another point. Ladies, I think so often we talk about there not being, men don't qualify. There aren't enough eligible men. There's not enough eligible husbands. But it's like, are you eligible? Are you an eligible woman? Have you vetted yourself first? Have you vetted yourself first? Like, quite literally. Like, are you what you want? Like if you could date yourself, would you do it? If you think about it, you know what I mean? Because if you're just looking for a cop out, if you're looking for somebody to kind of save you from your own problems, well, then how is that going to benefit the other person? It's like if you honestly wouldn't even date yourself if given the opportunity, then it's like, okay, maybe it's time for me to sit down and for me to work on myself and like have a come to Jesus moment and work on myself and do whatever I need to do and sit down, like get out of the whole dating mating market and figure things out for a little bit. But that's what I'm saying. I hear all this talk of there's not enough eligible men, but it's like, well, are there enough eligible women? What is an eligible woman? What does that even look like? What are the qualities, characteristics? And again, this is a conversation that wasn't had. So often I think women, we're told what we deserve, but we are not necessarily told or even taught how to maybe get what we deserve or to become what we deserve, if that makes sense. We're not given those lessons. And again, unfortunately, without that, what that ends up doing is it ends up creating, I think, unnecessary havoc and chaos in relationships and marriages. And honestly don't think it has to be that painful. I don't think it has to be that detrimental. I just think some of us lack training, understanding, spiritual, emotional fortitude, discipline, all those things that essentially that you would need, or at the very least, you would hope somebody would tell you and walk with you and say, hey, this is what it's really going to take. And again, it just sounds like that just didn't happen. It didn't happen. So at the end of the day, she was in this marriage for herself. She was in this marriage to get something out of it. And it was destined to fail based upon that. There was nothing that man could have done. There was nothing he could have done to make her happy, because it was all based upon a false premise. And again, I commend her. I totally commend her for coming out and being honest about this, because she's being public about the scenario, but best believe, I'm sure there are plenty of other situations, plenty of other marriages that have ended like this, or at the very least, plenty of other relationships that have ended like this. And this is partially why I think you see some men rebelling. This is why you see some men rebelling, because they're just like, hey, we're humans too. We don't want to be treated like walking wallets, and they shouldn't. There should be mutual respect. But if you're a woman and you only see a man for what he can do for you and how he can improve your life and benefit your life, and there is zero conversation about how you can do the same, and there's zero conversation about how you are to be a helpmeet, there's zero understanding of what the spiritual components of marriage and relationship and all those different things, it is not a recipe for success. It's probably a recipe for failure. So again, that is why I appreciate her being honest about this, because I think at the very least, let this be a model. Let this be a model for women. If you think that you deserve a man with all these money and resources just by virtue of you being a woman, no, you do not. Again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you going for the best that you can get, but you have got to be realistic about yourself. You got to be honest with what you're bringing to the table. Again, if the reason you want a high value man, quote unquote, or a man with money is because actually you're struggling and you're tired of struggling financially, you're having a hard time keeping up with bills, your life is a mess, how are you going to now be an asset to that man? So again, you got to start there. It's like, do you even understand what it means to have a healthy relationship? Do you understand that there's going to be sacrifice involved on your end? Are you comfortable with that? Are you comfortable with the sacrifice? Are you comfortable with the fact that you're probably going to have to compromise? There's going to be things that you have to do in the name of love that you don't want to do personally. It's not going to always be about you anymore. Are you even willing to do that? If you think this relationship is going to be all about that man or that particular person fulfilling your needs all the time, you're going to be set up for disappointment. And again, I think another thing that brings me to another point where it comes to a person's happiness, their well-being. Again, a person is not responsible for your happiness. They're just not. Nobody, no man or woman is responsible for your happiness. You are. You got to get that settled with you, yourself, God, and yourself, literally. Now, of course, I mean, having relationships has value. Having relationships definitely adds, and we need them to a certain extent. But it's saying as far as your own emotional well-being, you're responsible for that. So that's another thing. Sometimes you'll have women who are in relationships and they're just discontent. And I'm like, but you come to find out they were discontent before they were married, and they thought them getting married was going to make them better. And it's like, no, if you're discontent before you get married, before you find the perfect person, you're probably going to still be discontent after the fact, because nothing has changed other than maybe your marital status, but you haven't dealt with those things that make you discontent. And again, that's where it comes to doing your own work, really seeking out a good spiritual, strong connection with God, really, really understanding, what does that even mean? What does it even mean to have that? What does it mean to be emotionally wet? That's where it comes down to you doing your own personal work, and nobody can do that for you. Nobody can do that for you. And these are the kinds of things I just wish women were told, or at the very least considered, when they were talking about, soulmates. It was, we heard the whole soulmate thing, and it was all cute and fluffy and all flowery. But at the end of the day, it still ended in divorce. That wasn't enough. We heard, love, emotions. He was this. He loved me unconditionally. He accepted me for who I am. And it still wasn't enough. Why? Because she still had things about herself that she had not dealt with. And even after marriage, even after I do, those issues didn't change. And she thought maybe she married the wrong person. She thought, maybe I need to get a different marriage. Maybe I need to get more money. She thought that was going to make the situation better. And it didn't, because the issue was her. The issue was her. So y'all, a lot to unpack there. For those of you guys who are hopping on, hit that like button, smash the highlight button. Also show some love to the show. You can find me on Cash App or Venmo, Shay Sharday. Also, you can show support on Super Chat. yeah, so y'all, that's pretty much what I got. That is what I got. A lot to unpack here. I'm gonna try to leave the link to this in the description also if you guys want to check it out. But this was an interesting one. This was an interesting one. I see the median American makes around $1,000 a week. None of us are rich. We are one paycheck away from financial distress. Yeah, no, absolutely. That sounds about right. That is your average typical American thing. So again, that's with that, like if we know that most people are just average, making average money, just trying to survive, then where do we go off thinking that, oh, we are the exception, or we are this, or we are that? Like I said, there's nothing wrong with having good self-esteem. You can have good self-esteem, but having good self-esteem is, I think, different than maybe being what's the word, entitled, or being unrealistic. If you're not happy with your financial situation, yeah, of course you can work and try to do things to do better to try to get there. But I think it's disappointing, and I think it's sad when women are not able to recognize good options, or are not able to recognize when they have something good, because their own sickness gets in the way. And if nothing else, that is what I appreciate about her sharing her story. She recognized that. She, I think, eventually recognized, hey, crap, I was the issue. I wrecked my own home. And we see a lot of women doing that today. And if nothing else, hopefully this story will cause somebody to stop, think about it, and make sure that they don't go down the same path. So, y'all, that's what I got. That's what I got on this one. Again, if you like this stream, definitely hit the like button for sure. Likes are free. Share it with someone that you think might find it interesting. Show support to the show if you want to. And stay tuned for upcoming content, upcoming videos. If you haven't subscribed already, please be sure to do so and hit the notification button so you are always notified whenever a video or a live drops. And without further ado, we'll talk later, guys. Bye.